We interrupt this program for a special news bulletin.
Throws toward the corner of the end zone. It is intercepted! Intercepted! The Ducks have the ball!
To the end zone! Oregon! Mariota dives! Touchdown! They hand it off straight out! C.J. Burdell wins the game for Oregon!
Inside the 10! A hat-trick, a touchdown from Justin Herbert! Howard's going to run for it. Time runs out, and that'll do it! Welcome to the Big Ten, Oregon! They storm the field at Autzen!
Welcome, Duck fans, to another episode of Ducks Rising Alumni Corner on the Ducks Rising Podcast Network. I'm your host, Zachary Neel, and with me today is someone who every Oregon fan will know very well, the great Akili Smith. Akili, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm good, man. We're thrilled to bring you on. This is a special Alumni Corner because unlike other episodes where we've asked former players, what they've been up to, how they're staying connected to the program since leaving, we can take things in a different direction today. In essence, We're getting the Ducks Rising parent corner, not the alumni corner. Your son, KJ, is a true freshman quarterback on the roster right now. He signed with the Ducks as a 4-star recruit and enrolled early, has hit the ground running. What's it like having your son kind of follow in your footsteps, so to speak, and join the Ducks?
Yeah, it's been a surreal moment. And, we're just happy as a family. We're happy for everybody that has touched KJ's life during his journey. We do understand that he still has some development that he has to do. But one thing about KJ, he's such a good kid. He's willing to put the work in. And I'm just happy that, Dan Lanning and Will Stein just continue to support him throughout his junior year, his senior year. And now he finally has access to the Oregon facility. And he's one of the quarterbacks there getting bigger, stronger, faster.
Was this always your goal? I mean, obviously every parent will say that they want their kid to do their own thing and do what they love, find their own passions. But in the back of your mind, along the whole way, you got to be like, I would love for him to be a quarterback at Oregon. Like when he decided to do this, like how happy were you?
I was ecstatic. I still got a picture where he committed to Oregon. He was age 4. He put on one of my compression shirts and had his hat on. And he's throwing a peace sign up like this. And me and the wife were just ecstatic, But with that, you still got to put the work in. We have a lot of alumni out there that have kids that are trying to crack that door to get in. So it's not a given that just because you're an alumni that, your child is going to be able to, be an Oregon Duck. He still had a lot of work to do. He was able to, put some work in, be a state title winner, a silver pigskin winner. 4-star quarterback and all that stuff. And he was able to become an Oregon quarterback.
Can you take me through his recruiting process a bit and what it was like to have Oregon, this school that you're so connected with, pursue him? Like, when did you kind of have that realization that he might be able to go where you went and there might be able to be this marriage down the road?
Well, it was interesting because in the beginning, we didn't know, what was going on as far as the offers and stuff like that was concerned. And I told him, I said, well, evidently, KJ, we got to work harder. That's just it. If the offer didn't come, you have to work harder. They're not going to give out offers to Oregon alumni kids if you're not good enough to help our program win a national championship. And he continued to work harder. Will Stein came out to California. He had a chance to see him throw. He had a very successful sophomore campaign, so he showed it as a 15-year-old on varsity. He received the offer. And then this is funny because one day I was in a living room and I was talking to Will Stein, and he just came out of nowhere and he was just like, Dad, I'm ready to commit. And I was like, what? He was like, I'm ready to commit because it started to become overwhelming. And KJ's not that kid from the Floridas and the Michigans and all kind of stuff just started to call. And the way he came out and just kind of shook his head and said, Dad, I'm ready to commit and get it over with. I said, okay, well, let's go ahead and get the graphic done and let everybody know that you're ready to be an Oregon Duck. And that's pretty much how it happened.
What was that feeling like for you? I have to imagine that that was one of the best moments of your life. Yes.
Yeah, it brings a tear to your eyes, really, that, he wants to be a part of the school and the journey that you had an opportunity to do. And, Tedford's been checking in on KJ. Mike Belotti's been checking in on KJ because those were my two coaches at the University of Oregon. They know exactly what I could have potentially done if I had more time at the University of Oregon. So, like I told Teddy like 3 weeks ago, I said, Teddy, you got to stay alive now because we're doing this thing all over again, and I want to be in the suite when we kick off for a national championship opportunity.
Absolutely. So in your life, I mean, you've been a Duck, you've lived the highs and lows of being a member of the team, you've been a fan, you've watched from afar after graduating and experiencing, the game that way. Now you're going to be a parent, which watching closely with your son on the roster, are you prepared for that? Can you even be prepared for that?
I am not prepared at all. And I tell my friends and my wife all the time, when KJ becomes a starter at the University of Oregon, I am getting off of social media. I don't want nothing to do with it,
Okay.
good or bad. I'm getting off of social media. Hopefully we end up 16-0 or 17-0 because the kids are playing so many games now. And when I turn it back on, all I see is national championship and confetti. But yeah, I'm trying hard not to make any mistakes now because I understand the ramifications of what could potentially happen to KJ if you're that type of parent. So it's not easy.
I'm imagining it's a different kind of balance to walk because you obviously the position at a high level. You know what goes into off-season competitions. You know that Dan Lanning and his staff are always going to bring in the best players to compete. But now they're bringing those kids in to compete with your son. So I'm sure
Right.
you're seeing it. You're kind of feeling maybe conflicted about this. How's that process been like of trying to what it's like, but you're also looking at it in a new way?
Yeah, I told him we're trying to win a national championship. It's very simple. We are not in a situation where we want to go to the Fiesta Bowl, no disrespect, or the Rose Bowl, no disrespect. But we are a program that is now trying to win a national championship. And KJ, like I tell him, there's only been two that's been able to do it. You got Trevor Lawrence, and then you got Tua, who came in for a half a ball and been able to do it. So you're going to have to sit. You have to sit, continue to get bigger, stronger, faster, understand situational football, know the offense better than Will Stein and Dan Lanning and the offensive staff. And then when your number is called, you got to be ready to play. And I tell him that all the time. You remember after my junior year, I was competing with Jason Moss, and I put in a lot of work that off season. We came out guns a blazing against Michigan State, and I love Mossy to death. But in my mindset, it was like, nah, Moss, we'll get you in the game when we start to blow these teams out. And he was able to get some of those minutes. And that's the approach that I've been telling him to have.
What's the thing that you've been most proud of so far about seeing KJ at Oregon and just watching him grow and develop?
Just the decisions. My first year at Oregon, I made some bonehead decisions. I got to call it what it is. It was a lot of bonehead decisions my junior year, living that college life and stuff like that in Eugene. And then my senior year is when I really started to turn it on, and I had a different type of focus. And he already has that focus. He's not partying and doing some of that stuff that goes on out there in Eugene. He's a homebody. He goes home after the facility, and it's working out for him. So as long as he can stay focused, and like I tell him all the time, son, just be KJ. That's all you got to do. Just be KJ, and you'll be perfectly fine.
Before we go any further, I want to take a quick break and talk about our title sponsor, Backer. If you listen to the show before, you've heard us talk about Backer, and we encourage all Duck fans to go out there and check their amazing Oregon jackets out, hoodies, hats, and more at Backer. That's bckr.com. Use the code RISINGFREE for free expedited shipping. If you use that code, 10% of all orders will go back to the Ducks Rising team as well. All right, let's move on to your career. You had an incredible senior season that really sets you up to make the leap to the NFL. You're the Pac-10 Player of the Year, second-team All-American, 32 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. When you look back at that season at Oregon, after starting at the JUCO level, what stands out to you? Do you have any kind of lasting memories or favorite moments from that year in Oregon?
Yeah, and really, I give a lot of credit to Bellotti hiring Jeff Tedford. Again, I was getting myself in some trouble, and Tedford, sat me down and said, "This is what we're going to do." So when I got in trouble, we had to run 6:30s in the morning. He used to meet me at 6:30 in the morning, and we would just work on drops. He pulled me out of the line. Coach Rat allowed him to pull me out of the line. We worked on drops and what it meant to be a quarterback, and he completely changed my whole mindset as far as my approach to the game, the way you're supposed to be living, the way you're supposed to be eating. And we ended up having a nice season. And to this day, I tell guys all the time, in my opinion, that's one of the most prolific offenses that Oregon has seen. And we were under center, and we also huddled. So if we had an opportunity to get in the shotgun and do some of the other stuff that they're doing now and run, the extra plays that they're running, who knows? The numbers might have been more. But I'm thankful for everything that we've done. Thankful for my teammates, man, because we really started that process of really pushing Oregon to the next level.
Absolutely. You were the third overall pick in the 99 draft. That's a big shadow to cast. I'm curious how you approach things with KJ now, making his way, trying to get to the NFL as well when it comes to setting expectations, because, that's a lot to live up to. And while you may not be the one putting pressure or these expectations on him, people in the outside world will be. They'll look at what you did and they'll, whether it's fair or not, they'll compare what he does to what you did. How do you kind of handle that thing, whether it's right or wrong?
Yeah, we've had those conversations since KJ was like 12, 13 years old. Like, KJ, you're going to be judged based upon my NFL career. And he understands that, and we talk about that stuff all the time. And he's, Dad, I know, because to this day, he's still getting judged off of what I did as opposed to what he did. So he understands the battles that he's going to have to deal with. We're constantly having those conversations. I actually talked to Eric Weddle Sr. today. He's a good friend of mine out here in San Diego. He has volunteered to help with some mentorship. So he's going to be talking to KJ because his career was different, right? So you're talking about a guy that had a prolific career, won a Super Bowl, and he's talking about a guy in Akili Smith Sr. that just didn't have a great career. And people will always look at that differently, not knowing that I can teach him not to make the mistakes that I made. And that's what he's been very receptive to. And I'm thankful that he's been listening.
Looking at this season just as a whole, I'll ask you to take your dad hat off and put your alumni, your Oregon Ducks hat on. What are your expectations going into this year? Because there's so much new, across the board, offense and defense. Just a lot of questions after last year, but a lot of excitement too. What are you looking for going into the season?
Well, the Penn State game is going to be difficult. They're probably going to be wearing all white and waving white towels. I like Mallard. Mallard is a good quarterback. Thank God that tight end that they had is gone. Maybe they got another one, but oh my God, he was a monster. So that's going to be a difficult game. No disrespect to any other teams in the Big Ten as far as the schedule is concerned. We should be favored in 95% of those games. And all we got to do is go out there and take care of business and get ourselves in a position to get us in the playoffs. So I look forward to a deep playoff run this year.
I agree. All right, I've got some quick hitters to get you answers on before we get you out of here. I'm curious, your favorite uniform that you never got to wear. Obviously, you played before the uniform era at Oregon, but was there any that you saw where it's like, oh man, I would have looked really good in that one?
I love those white cancer uniforms with the shiny silver helmets with the wing on the side. Oh my God, those are icy. We call those icy out here.
What was the most hyped locker room that you were ever in post game?
Oh man, Reuben Jones after the USC win. Like Reuben was responsible to get the locker room fired up, and he was responsible to help us celebrate when the games was over with. He's a master at that stuff, and still to this day, he's running around acting like he's just the king of motivation, if you will. So that USC game, I mean, beating Southern Cal at our place, man, that was just a huge win for the program.
Yeah, it was big. Who was the best player that you ever played against in college?
Ooh, that would be a good one. Chris McAllister was pretty good. We went into that game against Arizona when they had Desert Swarm, and they had some rules to stay away from him. But when we turned on the film, Damon Griffin was actually giving him that work, if you will. But Chris was a hell of a corner. That Desert Swarm defense, they beat us pretty good Halloween night in Arizona.
What about at the NFL level? Who was the best player you ever played against in the NFL?
Ooh, NFL. Well, you got to get into the Tampa. I played against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and I played against the Baltimore Ravens. And when you play against Warren Sapp and you're looking at that three technique right there every single time before the snap, I mean, he was an absolute monster. And then you follow that with Lynch in the secondary and Barber and Brooks and all those guys. But I would definitely say Warren Sapp was probably the best defensive player I played against.
In college, what was the loudest stadium outside of Autzen that you ever played in?
UW, no doubt about it. UW my junior year. It was so loud that the field was moving. The field was vibrating. Because you remember, we jumped out on them. And then next thing you know, they staged an unbelievable comeback. And late into that fourth quarter, the fans just kicked in. And then the way that the stadium was set up, I guess it was set up that way to make the field move and vibrate. And that was the loudest stadium outside of Autzen that I played in.
You mentioned this a little bit earlier, but is there a coach or a teammate who had a lasting impact on you in life beyond football?
Oh, who would that be? Life beyond football. Well, I talked to Pat Johnson a lot, although I only had an opportunity to play with him 1 year. He does a good job in the business world and stuff like that. And we conversate about what could have been if he had one more year at the University of Oregon. And then, me and Saladin McCullough are good friends as well. We chit chat at least 4 or 5 days a week. So I would say those two are probably the top two that I communicate with the most as far as the Oregon Ducks are concerned.
All right, last one. Which game or which play still plays in your head like it was yesterday?
Which plays?
Which game or which play?
Oh, I got to go back to that Michigan State game. I think it was the first post route that we hit with Damon Griffin because that was the one that pretty much let us know that we're about to give these guys the business because they were talking a lot of trash before that game. We're the Big Ten. You guys are the Pac-10. You guys are little. You guys are going to see what physical football is all about. And when I say we put in so much work with Coach Rat to get ready for that game, when Rat said 10, we did 12. If he said 8, we did 10. Like everybody was bought into what we needed to do. It paid off for us. And then again, it goes back to that USC game. It was third and short, and coach called speed option. And I told myself, Keely, you got to get the first down. And when I kept that ball and cut it up, it parted like the Red Sea. And I was able to score that 63-yarder, and Otson just went crazy.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, well, let's wrap it up there. Akili, I can't thank you enough for sitting down with us today. I know that having you back and so connected to this program now through KJ is really special for a lot of fans out there, many of whom idolized you for a couple of years, a few decades ago. So it means a lot that you would, sit down and chop it up with us. We certainly can't wait to watch KJ out on the field and can see him play a little bit more. Wishing the absolute best for him.
Yeah, appreciate you for having me on the show. And like I always say, man, go Ducks.